Hello everyone, my name is Charlotte Triglau and I'm the 2024 Theatre Arts Captain at Scotch College, Adelaide. Today I'm joined by world-renowned Australian actor Sarah Snook. Best known for her starring role as Shiv Roy in the HBO drama series Succession, Sarah has won multiple awards including 2 Golden Globe Awards and a Primetime Emmy Award. It's safe to say, after being in at least 16 TV shows and movies, Sarah has certainly made her mark in the acting world. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Sarah about her journey into acting and her career thus far. I'm so proud and honoured to be able to say that you are a Scotch College Adelaide Old Collegian, and you joined us by being awarded a Performing Arts Scholarship. You played the lead role of Wendy in Mum's middle school co-curricular production of Peter Pan. Mum said even though you were younger than the other students who auditioned for the role, you stole the audition and your verbal and physical communication really invited her into the inner world of Wendy. What are your memories of that experience?
I do remember playing Wendy, and I had a great time. I think I probably wanted to play Peter Pan was the honest answer. I wanted to, because Peter Pan seemed to have more fun, and Wendy was looking after the boys. But I had a really good time doing that, and I think, it's all those different plays and musicals, and there were always, some were extracurricular and some were just part of the curriculum that we did, but they were always like beneficial. They always were the things that I remember most of my time at high school, I think.
Mum also said that your dramatic and comic timing was instinctive and you took direction from her very easily. She noted this in class during her after-hours academy classes and the productions that you were in your time. How do you combine direction with your instinctive truth or for how you want to communicate your characters?
Good question. I do remember actually we did Cosy. You directed that, didn't you? Yeah, we did Cosy at Scotch, and I remember can't remember the name of the character, Cherry. I remember being on stage and being incredibly nervous. Like, I don't remember my lines, don't want to be here, kind of nervous, and getting the kind of the shakes, and in my brain going, well, Cherry's meant to be a bit loose and a bit like, a bit kind of off kilter, off the wall. So maybe she now has a tick, which is her leg is shaking, and I'll just invest in that, and then that'll make me feel more comfortable and like just make it a character tick. And I remember someone afterwards coming up and going, "Oh, your leg was amazing. What a great character choice." I'm like, "Well, it wasn't a character choice," but you sort of like fold it into the world. I do actually remember another time. It would have been in a class, and it was a group activity. I don't remember what it was. It was like making up a play or something, and I think I was like frustrated or bored or like, just hurry up, want to get this done. And I remember like just taking over a bit, and I remember your mum Shelby coming over and going like, well, no one else is going to learn. If you're just like doing it for other people, no one's going to learn, and you can't do that. And I think it was a really good. I was so embarrassed and ashamed because I'd just been trying to like get it done, but it was such a good lesson to be told, because it doesn't, like, if you're not working as a team and to get it done and like allowing people to fail in their own ways or whatever, it's just, if you're taking over all the time, it's not a good team atmosphere. Yeah.
Good life lessons, Mother.
Yeah.
I'm very glad.
Recently, you had the incredible opportunity to collaborate with the legendary Australian author Adam Elliot on his latest claymation project. Having dabbled in voice work before, how does your approach to character development shift when you're performing solely through voice?
Yeah, voice is a different one than, because it's the only mode of communication that you have control over, I suppose, as an actor when you're doing cartoon or claymation or animation in that way, or documentary. I've done a couple documentary narrations, and you have to. There's almost like it requires a truer honesty or something. You have to be really engaged with what you're saying, and then that's what comes across. Because if you switch off, then the audience, you can hear someone who's not, in their voice or on their voice in that moment. And the claymation sort of side of it, Adam was able to show me the characters, and I had a little snail next to me and was able to talk to the snail, which is what the character Grace is doing in the film, and also it was over 3 sessions over a year, and so the first session that they then animated to, I think, it's like a first draft, and then they animate it and it comes back and I hear pieces of my voice against the visual and go, oh, that doesn't work, or that works really well, or I could have done better there, and then you kind of put it together again in another draft, and then a final go over, and Adam is there in the studio directing at the same time, and it was really nice. It was really a nice collaborative process.
In your career, you've worked across both stage and screen. How do you approach storytelling differently in theatre versus film or television? And what draws you to one medium over the other?
I don't know if it's any different or whether I'm drawn to one more than the other. I think they all give different experiences personally, and what I can tell from an audience, like it's nice in theatre to like get an immediate reaction from the audience, and you can tell whether you're doing a good job because people have tuned out, or you saw someone check their phone, or like something happened. But then also, like doing Dorian recently, we had technical difficulties and we had to stop a show a couple of times. It might have been 4 out of the 100 or so shows, and it gives it a different kind of aliveness. It's really exciting when something stops, and it's also exciting for an audience to see how real it suddenly is. It's like it's not just you press play and then you pause. It really is happening in front of you, and there's a conversation and that can happen with an audience then, which is really nice. But film, it's a different. I like the collaborative process of film where you're making something together, and there's not a lot of control sometimes, but that's kind of freeing as well. Yeah.
You turned down the role of Shiv Roy initially. Could you share what ultimately convinced you to take the role, and how do you think turning it down might have changed your career?
How would turning it down have changed my career? I mean, I wouldn't be where I am. Oh, I don't know. It's hard to say. I feel like sometimes life feels a very kind of linear track where like you do one thing, you do another thing, and then it helps to think of it that way for me, so you're not kind of looking back and regretting things. Why you made a decision, and so that's why you're going this way. I'm very glad I didn't turn it down. I'm very glad I said yes in the end. I turned it down initially because I didn't see the vision, and that's my own short-sightedness, as well as it's a tricky situation to be in when you're an actor in that kind of setup, because you have to agree to 5 to 7 years on the basis of one script being the pilot. You have to really trust the creatives that are involved already, and hope that it's going to be a good show, and if it's successful you should be so lucky, but also if it's successful in a way that is outside of your taste, then it can be really difficult to be inside that success. And fortunately, Succession was something that I not only enjoyed making, was challenged by, and also would have watched otherwise.
Congratulations on bringing the picture of Dorian Gray to Broadway. The transition back to theatre from film and TV to live theatre can be quite profound. What challenges do you find most fulfilling in the immediacy and intimacy of a live performance?
Yeah, I mean, like kind of what I said before with the immediacy of it. It's such a, and it's to do with where you are as a person that day. There were only 2 or 3 shows for the UK run where I turned up at work and was like, I don't want to do this today. Today I don't want to go to school today. Like, come on, but then other days you're like, I'm so excited to see my friends. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to do this. There were only a few times where I was not excited to be there, and to the testament to the quality of the script and what Kip had created. After the first 5-10 minutes, it's really fun and exciting, and also there's no room for error in that show. So if you're not concentrating and in a kind of flow state of keeping on going, then you're going to mess it up, and then be more anxious and not enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
As someone who has portrayed a wide range of characters, how do you think theatre and film can give a voice to women's experiences and stories that are often overlooked or underrepresented?
Yeah, I think, I have pointedly chosen the roles that I have done with a lens of like, is this an interesting character? Is this is this character just sort of like I call it like a handbag to the plot or the storyline. That's kind of why I wasn't really interested in Shiv initially, because I thought, well, it's a bunch of white men in business. You don't really see a lot of women at that sort of level that I'm aware of. I'm not, wasn't rolling in those kinds of circles. So is the character just gonna be a prop who's gonna be like, oh, we need a female in here, so let's just chuck this one in?
Yeah.
I'm not interested in doing that. So I have decided to make sure that the roles that I do are interesting, and that's, there's a privilege to be able to say that as well. Like you to be able to say no to something, I think, is just as powerful as saying yes to something. And for me, I've always wanted to be able to, in like 20 years' time, look back on the roles that I did and go like, great, I know why I did that, and not like, oh, damn it, I was surfer girl number 2 and I just had to look hot in a bikini, and oh god, that's like a different kind of pressure in for me that is just not, I'm not able to do that kind of pressure. I'd prefer a different kind of pressure.
You've played characters who challenge traditional power structures, particularly in patriarchal settings. How do you think your portrayal of these characters contributes to conversations about gender and power in the real world?
I didn't think that Shiv was somebody that people would necessarily like relate to or aspire to be. But interestingly, I've had a lot of people, really be influenced by her as a character and her willingness to kind of just stand up for what she thinks is right, and also the fun of playing a character who isn't right all the time, who is like complex and wrong and strident and indignant and gets it wrong and yet still has something that is attractive about her character. And I think that's quite an interesting kind of space to occupy. And I was surprised at how much people were responding to that in a way of taking elements of that might be beneficial for their own lives, or something that's empowering, or and I think it's it's that sort of old adage of like, if you don't see it, then you can't be it, or you can't believe that you can be it. And I think having a diversity of different types of female characters on screen is really important because of that.
The landscape of the entertainment industry is changing rapidly, with more diverse voices coming to the forefront. What changes, especially in the television and film industry, have you found the most exciting or inspiring in the recent years?
I feel like, just as something that comes to mind first is I've noticed particularly in Australian TV, the amount of female directors and female cinematographers in particular is much more balanced here than it is overseas. And I think that's really exciting. I think that's great, because getting a different eye behind the camera is always going to add something more to a conversation. It's not because it's better or worse or any more or less. It's just having something different is always better for a broader conversation.
Yeah, of course.
And so always having sort of more diverse voices in gender, yes, and in sort of crew spaces, but then also in ethnicity and in socioeconomic background, and like it's what we do in this industry is to tell stories, so they should come from as many diverse places as they can.
Kind of similar to what you just said, that's a perfect leading question. Women's voices the
sure.
entertainment industry are becoming louder. How do you personally navigate your role in amplifying women's narratives in your work?
I think just being conscious of the roles that I choose and the ways in which I portray the characters, maybe. I don't know. I feel like 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, there seemed to be less room for women in their like over 30, sort of 40-year-old spaces. It was like, oh, we're not making shows about people like that. People like that. Like, just fucking women. Excuse me. Like, just women, you know? Like,
Yeah.
just people.
Yeah.
Which I think has changed a lot significantly. Like Reese Witherspoon and Bruna Papandrea, their production company, working specifically to highlight female stories. And there are, you know, actresses like Naomi Watts and Nicole Kidman and I mean Emma Thompson, like loads of people who are still managing to sustain a career beyond the so-called mid-30s or whatever expiry date from the Hollywood of yesteryear. It's like so overdone, you know, like like who cares? Like there's an obvious and very valuable demographic that you can sell stories to. So then let's do that, and like let's not just sell stories but share stories, you know. Like there's a commercial and social benefit to having diverse stories of multi-generation and multi, you know, look as well, you know, all of it.
Yeah. Looking ahead, are there any particular themes, movements or causes that you're passionate about exploring further in your work in theatre and film? And is there any words of advice that you'd give to someone that wants to be as successful as you?
Oh, I don't know actually what I want to do in the future is a very broad question. No, don't apologize for that. That's not an apology question. It's like, I don't know. It's things that are difficult and challenging and complex. I think actually that something that's come up recently is a acknowledgement that it will be difficult to find something that will compare to, in an equaling sense, to Succession. It was great people to work with, great scripts, great locations. It was all this sort of like 10-10 kind of across the board. And you're never really going to find something that matches that, particularly in the way that one looks at things that happened in the past with a kind of like halcyon kind of nostalgia that like it was the best time ever. It was also incredibly challenging.
Yeah, of course.
Difficult to be away from family, difficult to be away from friends, lonely, and you know, you're thinking you're not doing a great job for a lot of it. But when you look back on it, it's wonderful. So I would hope to in the future find something that was as equally as complex and challenging that I would then also look back on as rewarding and an enjoyable time. And I guess for like, in terms of advice for people, if you want to become an actor, I think being yourself, the irony of that, because like you have to transform into other different characters and people and things, but being true to or finding out what is true to you and to who you are and what you want to share as like what your voice is, and believing that you are allowed to occupy that space. I think that's a really important thing for an actor, because so much of it can become about rejection and not feeling worthy of occupying a space, but everyone is allowed to, and they should be allowed to stand in their own spaces and speak their own voices and share that.
Has becoming a mother influenced the roles that you've taken or the way that you approach your acting?
Yeah, I think it has. I think definitely there is more, for good, better or worse, access to emotion, to the kind of bigness of life.
Yep.
Everything feels very important, and you know, priorities kind of shift, and you kind of jettison things that aren't important anymore, or don't sweat the small stuff. And yeah, I think, you know, in terms of like what it gives to my acting or my depth of understanding to a character, I think it's definitely enhanced that kind of side of things. And just like, you know, I don't know, the experience of becoming a mother and holding your baby and like looking around and going like, oh my God, every single person was born. Whatever way they did it, they came out of a mum somewhere.
Yeah.
Somehow. Could have been a test tube, could have been a sperm, could have been whatever it is, cesarean, vaginal, whatever. They came out of a woman. We are incredible. Holy moly. Like, and seeing all the, like, you see people who are down and out and they're like got troubles or whatever it is, like at some point someone looked at them, held them in their arms and thought, wow, this is the best thing ever, and maybe they were challenged by that and they had to get whatever happened in that person's life beyond that. It's like sort of the psychedelic nature of what life actually is without any kind of stimulant or anything like that, just like we are born of people and continue to be so and tell stories, and it's huge. Yeah, I think it's nice to put that into characters.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today, Sarah.
No worries.
Quite a full circle moment, considering that when you were in year 12, I was in my mother's stomach and she was pregnant with me, and I've heard that you had to go down to the tuck shop to get her wraps. Is that right?
Yeah.
I've heard that from a few people over the time. But it's so lovely that we could have a little moment now.
Yeah.
And come together now that I'm in year 12 and finishing.
It's quite, that's that circle of life. It's quite insane how life goes.
Thank you very much. There we go. Okay.